Pros. Wanted to share something with you guys that we talked about at one of our quarterback school meetings. I think it's an interesting way to look at defenses. One of the things we're going to spend a lot of time on this spring in our spring football with players to pros. We're going to spend on understanding defenses and how to attack them through the run game and the pass game. What we're looking at here is you're looking at a defense, and the way we talk about reading defenses is you have, in this case, in this defensive formation, you have two high safeties, and then you have corners covered down on number one. And that's talking about the leverage of each one of these corners. You'll also see that number two is uncovered. So that'll come into play as we talk about 2 and 3 wide receiver concepts. When we look at this type of defense, you know, the vulnerable areas of the defense are deep middle of the defense. There's also a horizontal window here created when these linebackers drop into pass coverage. We call this the hole shot right here behind the corner and outside the safety. We attack that area as well on several of our concepts. We also have the flat area because we know that when we attack, if this corner is dropping in coverage, it leaves this flat area vulnerable, and some other defensive player has to try to cover it up, or that corner has to stay down, and it creates this high-low in the corner. First of all, let me talk about a couple of reads that we look at when we're talking about these vulnerable areas. If this corner is in this position and we're attacking the hole and also attacking the flat, I'll draw a concept called basic up here. And basic looks like this. Let me pick a red so it'll be a good looking color there. Basic has a forced outside release by the number one receiver. And an inside receiver could be number two. It could be the running back. We'll talk about both scenarios. Attacks the flat immediately with a speed out. When we run a concept like this, we're looking at a high-low read on the corner. In this scenario, the corner drops, we immediately throw underneath and allow this receiver to be a ball carrier, catch that ball, get upfield, and gain yards. If the corner stays down, we attack the hole shot. That's thrown on a line into the hole before his safety can rotate over. Because we know in most scenarios that this corner's first movement is back along the hash, and eventually he has to reroute and come back down in order to cover that pass. So we hit that hole shot. That's why we throw it on a line. We don't put it in the air. We don't put it downfield where he can easily come over and make a play. And we take the yards there. So that was basic. Now, look at the same basic route structure when we make it a 3 receiver route. We're going to put a lot of pressure on these players here in this triangle. Here again, we run the out, forced outside release. We run the speed out. Now, instead of running number 2 receiver, we can bounce, as we call it, number 1 receiver, and we end up in this scenario with the same read on the corner. High-low read. That corner stays down. We throw the hole shot. He drops. We throw underneath into the flat. Now he'll have to come down and make that tackle. If we're in a scenario like this, that corner is off. What we'll do in our read, so he's not here, he's backed off. We'll go ahead and kill the hole shot because now there's 1 and possibly 2 defenders can come over and make that play. So now we'll make it a different kind of read. We'll make it a stick read. This receiver will run 5 yards, turn to the outside. And now, because that corner is off, the read will move over to this defender right here. If he chases the flat route, we'll throw the stick. If he stays with the stick, we'll throw the flat. A lot of running back catch the ball, get upfield, and gain some good yards. Now, sometimes you'll end up with a scenario where the defense will roll coverage. We got our out here. That corner will press and bail with that route. We send the route to the flat. This defender will come down and play that route. Still, same read. That corner is here and drops. We throw this now. That's a long way for a defensive player to run and make that tackle. Now, in 7-on-7, that doesn't look great because this guy runs up, tags off, and we're down for a short gain. But in the real world, he's got to come down and make that tackle. And we're counting on this running back being talented enough to break that one tackle and continue on upfield and gain some good yards. That horizontal, that vertical window right there. First, let me show you this play. Smash. Outside receiver runs a hitch. Number 2 receiver runs a corner route. And then this is another high-low situation right here on the corner. If he drops, we throw underneath a hitch. We throw the corner and basically hit it over here in the hole shot. Now, one of the reads we may give our box coach is, okay, what is this safety doing? If he's overplaying the corner route, now we have a couple ways to come in here and attack this area of the field. The easiest way is to run a splitter by number 2, where he gets into that void. After we've seen this play and this safety is overplaying, we'll make that a box read, and we'll tag it off to hit this splitter right here in the middle of the field. A lot of times with that splitter, we'll also run that vertical right here in order to hold this safety here on the hash. So that's how we get into attacking this area of the field. That's just one way. Another way to do it, run the hitch here, run the corner here, run the vertical here, and have this receiver run the splitter. A little bit longer play, but it has the same effect. We've seen this safety come off the hash to cover that corner route, vertical route right in this safety's face, so he has no choice but to go deep. You know, if perhaps it's a Tampa 2, you might have this linebacker drop it in your face here, but we're going to count on the receiver beating a middle linebacker in order to make that catch and have a huge play. Talked about this horizontal seam. A couple ways we attack that in the passing concepts. One way is to run a high-low. Say it's to the right, we want to run dig to the right. Okay, here's our route structure, our progressions. You're opposite the dig, you run the shallow. If you're outside the dig, you run a post. If you're over here opposite the dig, you can be tagged off or you run a post. Know these safeties will be occupied by these posts, so we can come in here and read that play side linebacker. Our first read is if he carries the dig, we throw the shallow. And we'll call that right there the stick window. That'll come into play here in a second. We hit him right here. That receiver can catch that ball, get upfield for a sizable gain. Okay, one thing we don't want to do is we don't want to throw that late and have this corner drop to a zone drop and then come down and give somebody a headache. So we always want to keep that thrown just outside the tackle box. Okay, another way this play could work out is if for some reason this linebacker doesn't carry the route and jumps that shallow, then we come right in behind and throw the dig. We don't want to let that dig cross into the field, cross into the other side of the field, because realize if you get a good zone drop linebacker who drops to that curl, hook curl, now it turns inside. If we let that dig come across, then he's looking at a headache. So we want to hit that in the right center to the center of the field, but no more across that field. Another way to attack this inside is to run drive. Now you put your dig inside and you run the drag underneath. This read will go to your Mike linebacker. Your Mike linebacker drops, throw underneath. If that Mike linebacker stays down on the drag, then you throw right behind it. Here again, in the middle of the field, you don't want to let that route go any further because you don't want to run that guy into a headache. And so that's another way. Those are not the only ways to attack these inside defenders. You can do it with a 3 receiver route. And talking about using, here's one of my favorites. A lot of times teams in this too high formation learn to play the post wheel concept. That's where you put a post on the outside and you put the wheel route right here. This is actually a high-low read on the corner. A lot of times the corner will zone drop, especially if they're in a cover 2 shell, and then he'll sit and look for work. If he gets that wheel route coming, in many cases, because that route is going inside to his help, he'll have to stay with that wheel route. One thing we like to do on that now is run a 3rd route, either here or with our progression, bring a shallow across. When that corner leaves, that window's open or that window's open. We don't do that at the same time. It's either one or the other. We'll run that route. If that, now it's a high-low on the corner. If the corner takes the wheel, we'll throw underneath. If the corner comes down, we'll throw the wheel route and more than likely score. I saw the Patriots in the playoffs were notorious at running wheel routes, and a lot of times that wheel route will come from the backfield. You might see them do something like this. You might see a splitter from number 2 You might see that post from number one, and especially if you got man-to-man coverage, that'll pull that corner off of the hash. Then that running back would leak out and run that wheel route. And Tom Brady would hit it, guess where? Right there in the hole shot on the line. You can go on and on with it, just about every concept that we run, all the basic concepts. And against certain defenses, attacks on these areas where we put a defender in a bind. And that's how we keep the ball moving. The defense cannot be right. And that's the way we like it. These are some of the things that you guys can learn in our summer school, which is coming up March and April. So if you haven't registered, go on to www.players to pros, players to pro.com and join us out there on the field. You guys have a good night.